at you. Who else in your family? You say you have 5 sisters and brothers on your mother and your stepfather. Who else in your family have your perspective? All your brothers and sisters
I
think?
would say all my brothers. It's so funny. My little brother Jason, we have the same dad and mom. I say it's on my stepdad's side because we grew up together. But my little brother Jason, he's a barber, right? And so he was talking about getting skincare lines and barber supplies. He was talking about just a number of things or whatever. And I remember when we lived in California, he was like 3. And we would ask him, what do you want to be when you grow up, Jason? And he's like, I want to be a businessman. That's all he ever said. So Jason, he has that type of mentality where, I don't really care. Because, for instance, he was supposed to graduate college before me. He had this, some type of certificate that said pretty much he, was intelligent enough to, go ahead and go from the 9th grade into college, right? And, he thought about going to Stanford and Harvard and all those different types of things. And looking at him now, people wouldn't think that, because Jason is just a cool dude. He's a country. I mean, he is like super country, out of this world, H-Town, like for real. Right. And people looking at him wouldn't think that, but Jason is the most intelligent person that you could ever meet. And he told me, he was like, you know what, I feel like people are forcing me to do this, go on and go to college. He was like, but I actually want to be a kid. I want to go to high school. I want to, experience life. I don't want to be taken away from my friends right now. These are all I got right now. And I just told him, I said, Jason, you don't have to feel like you got to jump the gun. I said, do you? Mm-hmm. Love where you at. You always said you wanted to be a businessman. I said, and you don't have to go to Stanford to be one. I said, if you want to, you can go. I said, but college is going to always be there, whether you 19 or 95. You can always go to college. That's one thing about it. I said, so don't ever feel like this is the avenue that you have to take to get to where you want to go. So he tried going to school. Some things didn't work out or whatever. And so he took out a semester. He tried to go back again, get his degree in business management. They were messing with his classes, his money, all of that different kind of stuff. And I told him, I said, Jason, I think, that's God's way, or the universe's way of telling you that this is not where you're supposed to be right now. You know what I mean? Everything is kind of shaking and breaking apart right now. Nothing is seeming to work out. And this is the 2nd or 3rd time that you have tried this, right? And so now he's a barber. And he wants a chain of barbershops and different things like that or whatever. But it was like that subconscious thing, watching our parents do it. Growing up, my sister, she makes jewelry and she's vegan. And so she makes smoothies and snacks and all those different types of things. And so, that's what she does, right? And so all of us have that little, even if it's one has more than the other, we all have that kind of, I don't know,
entrepreneurship spirit
side to us. My little brothers and sisters, and they are young, like very young. Cameron is 15, college 14. All of us are young. Mm-hmm. But even them selling chips at school or trying to build their own brands and different things like that. Like, it's so funny how all of us are kind of going in that direction. So I just feel like even if we were to work or whatever, which is completely fine, I work right now, I do, even if we were to, I think all of us will have that kind of tie, because that's something that we grew up around. That's something that we are exposed to. So this next venture that I have going on is cool, because it's a thing where it's everywhere, and it can be everywhere and anywhere, right? It's a full business, and it'll benefit all of us. My sister with her jewelry and her food, my brother with his barbering, and so all of it kind of connects. And I'm like, all my siblings gotta eat. All of us are gonna do it. We can't live off mama and daddy forever. We can't be calling mama like, hey mama, can I have this? I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? So it's something different that we have to do in order to get to where we want to go. And so I'm just grateful that they kind of didn't necessarily instill it in us, but being able to see them go to their rental properties, and my mama like, okay, go with Brianna to go pick up this rent check. Seeing little things like that, we didn't think nothing of it growing up. Now that we're adults, it's kind of like 3 of us are adults. It's kind of like it's been kind of embedded in us, and so it's like, now what? How can we use what we learned as children to apply to our lives as adults, and then have built something that'll carry us forever and ever and ever. And especially me as an artist, because I'm the only one who does poetry. And so I was like, how can I merge the two? How can I merge poetry and art with something that'll pretty much, I guess, sustain me, because this is something that I want to do forever. This is not something that I just want to do sometimes and every now and again. This is something that I want to make a career out of some type of way. And so slowly but surely it's making sense, and I'm just gonna ride it until I can't ride it no more. So.
Most definitely. Do anybody else in your family write?
My mom write. All of them really write. My mom, my grandma, my grandpa. I would say this: everybody can write. Everybody doesn't really just like dive into it. I feel like I was the first person to just say, you know what, I'm just gonna do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I'm putting them in a position to feel like, okay, like what you were talking about earlier. You can do it. You know what I mean? My mom wants to publish a book, and she is dope. When I say she, when I say her mind, like, she is like one of the dopest women ever. And I'm like, that's a goal. So we were talking about co-authoring, right? But all of us can. Sometimes you just need that push. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just need that. And so although, you know, my parents have been jumping out on faith and doing stuff like this, some stuff is kind of like, you know, even when you in business, sometimes you can get comfortable. You know what I mean? When this is what's been your bread maker, you know what I mean? You gotta get comfortable in that. It's like, I don't want to stray away from this, because if I do, then what? How my kids gonna eat? How I'm gonna eat? You know what I mean? And so that's a very scary and vulnerable place to be in. So when you even think about putting art to, you know, making your lifestyle an artist lifestyle, oh my God, that's a whole nother level. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, you know what? I think I was given this so that I can not only help myself, but benefit those behind me who want to do it. So I'm excited.
You said your father died when you was young. How old were you when your father died?
How old was I? I was a freshman in college. I was 18, turning 19, one of them. 18 or 19, yeah.
Did that affect you? If so, how did it affect you?
It did affect me. And the funny thing about it is, I remember my mom, she was like, you must have a direct connection to God. She was like, because everything you speak happens. And it's so funny, because even if it's not right away, it does. And one time it scared me, like recently it scared me. But I remember talking to my sister, because my sister had this real like disposition towards my dad, because it was like, you know, we moved from California. We pretty much like were living in California. And I remember my mom, I was telling her, I was like, Mom, are we still moving away? And she was like, no. I was like, okay, well, let's start unpacking. And she's like, no, I'll do it. So we wake up the next day in Arkansas. So it's kind of like we were taken away from everything we kind of knew. And although we knew we would come back and we would visit and all that, we just knew it wasn't going to be the same. And so that kind of severed the relationship with my dad and my sister or whatever, because my dad was still young and he was still figuring it out. And so I was telling my sister, you know, sometimes you have to, as we got older, sometimes you have to separate Jason, who's my dad, Jason the person, from Jason the dad. I said, so Jason the dad, you know, was a little shitty a little bit, you know, but Jason the person was an amazing man. I said, and sometimes it gets difficult to realize it as a parent. I said, I'm not a parent, but I got a bunch of siblings. Hell, I feel like one. I said, so you know, parenting doesn't have a manual. I said, yes, he's done wrong. Yes, you know, you wish, you know, he was around a little bit more. I was like, but what was. I said, and you only get one biological dad. I said, luckily we have Kevin in our life, who is like the father figure in our life. I said, and imagine this. I said, yeah, you know, you hate Kevin because you feel like he took you away from California and all this, and you like, who is this nigga? You know, where's my daddy type of deal. I'm like, but just imagine if we didn't have Kevin. These experiences that I'm talking about now would have never happened. Not the way they're happening now. Anyway, I said, so yeah, Kevin, he's not all good. Kevin has done some stuff that make, you know, all of us want to shoot him in the head. But I'm like, sometimes you got to separate people from their roles, right, in order to understand them. So I said, you got to forgive him. I'm like, because he's not going to be here forever. And I remember, you know, them saying he had cancer and he had like a couple months, like a year or so to live. And so I'm like, dang. And I remember I got that call. I was on a bus going on a choir trip in college, and I just bust out screaming on the bus. And I'm like, it was like a scream of like release. Like I knew something was going on, but it was just like a spirit had just left me, and I was just like, right? And so I knew it was coming. I just didn't know when. So I remember one day I was telling my friend, I said, I think I'm gonna die today. And she was like, what? Why would you say that? And I'm like, I really feel like I'm losing a part of me today. I said, a part of me is like really leaving me today. I said, I feel like I'm gonna die today. And she was like, well, maybe it's not you. Maybe it's somebody that you know. I said, you could be right. I said, it's gonna happen today. Tell me why 5 minutes later, my sister called me and was like, Daddy died.
Oh,
and I was like, dang. And I just paused. I was shaking. I'm like, and it was almost like a sigh of relief. Almost not like happy he gone type of deal, but a sigh of relief, like I'm happy he's not suffering. Because even when I was on the phone with him and he was like, I love you, baby, but it was like so muffled. I'm like, that's not him. That's not him at all. And so it was crazy. And he died or whatever. And around that time I was going to Ferguson to help register people to vote or whatever. So I literally was doing that, then flew out to his funeral. And that was like the second time I got to see my brothers on his side, and they ran into my arms, and I'm thinking they don't even know me, and they ran and we embraced each other. And that was like the most happiest day of my life. As sad as it was, that was like the happiest day of my life, because it was a time where he could transition peacefully, you know what I mean? Everybody, I got to see all my family, I got to see my brother. So that affected me in a major way. I stopped writing. I just didn't care for a little while, you know what I mean? But I got over it, and I realized that death was not over it. You never really get over death. You just learn how to cope with it, right? And so I realized death is a part of life. And
that's the only part of life that's absolute.
Right. And it's like, the universe, we just kind of recycle ourselves, you know what I mean? He might be a tree around here somewhere, you know what I mean? So that's how life is. So
who was the funniest person? Who is the funniest person, or was the funniest person that you grew up with?
Me.
A person that just make you laugh all the time, outside of you.
I make myself laugh, but who is the funniest person? Like somebody who just be having me rolling. I gotta think. I would say probably my stepdad. I would say all my family is funny. Like, I would say between my grandpa and my stepdad. And the reason I say those two is because my grandpa is funny and don't even know it. It's like he's so serious, and so he gives me like I don't know who I want, a Malcolm X type of vibe, like for real. He's so serious all the time, like, but the way he talk is so funny. Like I can't even, oh my God, I can't even begin to think about it. Like, it was this one time we were at Popeyes, and Churches, and a woman just left off one biscuit, and he flipped out on her. Like, he turned Churches up, and we all just looking like everybody's scared. Like, she gave him like 10 biscuits after that for free. And he's just a funny guy. And my stepdad, I would say he's funny because he never really had a childhood. He's like a Michael Jackson, he never really had a childhood. And so him having a bunch of kids around him allowed him to have that childhood and be that silly person or whatever. So he is off the chain. Like, he tries to rap and stuff, and it is funny. Like, he is the corniest dude ever. But yeah, I would say those two.
Right. So about comedy, tell me about comedy. Earlier we was talking about comedy, and you had some ideas about comedy, but I told you let's wait till we start taping so I can hear some of your thought processes.
So I love comedy. I think, and I'm not gonna get back into the Richard Pryors and all of them. I'm just talking about in more recent time, which isn't really recent. But I would say some of my top comedians are Cat Williams. Even I'm talking about the younger quote unquote generation. Cat Williams, Corey Holcomb, Bernie Mac.
You like Corey Holcomb?
I love him because he's so raw.
I saw him live twice.
He's so raw.
I saw him live twice.
I would say, what's his name? Kind of big guy.
Patrice O'Neal?
No, he got a funny sound.
Bruce?
Nah. I can't think of. It'll come to me. Big guy.
I know you're talking about.
I know. Okay, cool. I just think they are funny people. What is his name?
He played on.
Dang, no, it just went away.
He played on Bacon Bad as as a security guard.
I can't think. Oh, it's gonna come to me. Okay.
He lost a lot of weight recently.
Yeah,
I know you're talking about.
Perfect,
I know you're talking
cool.
about.
But I think those are some of the funniest comedians because they're so real. Cat Williams, he has no filter. Corey Holcomb, especially. has no filter, and I respect that, because I feel like art, matter of fact, in my book it talks about that. Right here it says, what good is the art form that is bound by opinion and structure? I believe that, you know, art should not be, tamed necessarily. You know what I mean? I feel like this is the freest expression of just life, right? And so I feel like nowadays, comedy specifically has been so, I guess, highly policed. People feel like they can't say certain things. Like, so for instance, I remember I watching an interview with D.L. Hughley, and he was talking about how, forgive me for anybody who is in the LGBTQ community, but and it's no disrespect, so please don't take it this way, but he was talking about, he feels like they're a bunch of bullies now, you know what I mean? And they feel like they should be exempt from everything. So if we talk about, let's say for instance, if you were gay, I'm not saying you are, but let's say you were, right?
Let's not say that.
Okay, cool. Let's say that.
I'm just fucking with you. I'm just fucking with you. Now, look. Man, I said that. He's homophobic. So go ahead and say I'm gay.
Right.
I'm just playing.
That's what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. Good.
So people feel like, the minute you disagree with somebody who's gay, the minute that you say something about somebody's gay, you're a homophobe. You're dehumanizing me. And it's not about dehumanizing a person, right? It's just that I'm allowed to have this opinion too. You know what I mean? And because, for instance, homosexuality has become a more political thing, right? We try to make something that's behavioral, something that's civil. You know what I mean? I remember having a conversation, and this is going to tie into comedy, a conversation with a girl. She made a post that said, can you be pro-black and pretty much homophobic? Well, I told her, I said, well, I'm not homophobic. I said, I'm not scared of gays. I said, a phobia is a fear. I said, so I don't necessarily practice or agree with the lifestyle. I said, but I have nothing to get them against them. I said, I love them dearly. I said, I have people in my life who are gay. I said, so that's not the problem. I said, I just don't practice or condone it or agree with it. You know what I mean? I said, but I feel like a lot of people feel like if you say something like that, then you're a homophobe. She was like, I feel like that's dehumanizing us, because why can't you, how can you be pro-black and anti-gay? I said nothing about being anti-gay. I said that's a whole nother subject. We're gonna get into that later. But I said nothing about being anti-gay. I said I am against the practice of this. I said, and so what you're trying to do is make something civil and behavioral intertwined. I said these are two totally different types of things. And then we got into the whole being born gay type of thing. And I said, no, absolutely not. I said, now there have been studies done, where foods and different pesticides and herbicides on our foods can affect that, right? But I said, just naturally being born there, I said, you cannot be born gay. I said, why? Because that's a behavioral thing. That's not something in your DNA, right? That's a behavioral thing. I said, so quit trying to mix these two. I said, so you can go and talk to the rest of these people and raise hell with them, or talk, get them to try to agree with you. I said, but sis, you got the wrong one. I said, because I come from a background of research, right? I said, so you can't play these word games with me. And so she gets upset and she unfollows me, and now I got a whole group of gay people just jumping on me, with the exception of two, because they know me personally and they know I would never disrespect them, right? But they said, I absolutely agree with you, Sabreen. I said, why is it that you two can agree with me? I said, but she can't agree with me. Why? Because she wants me to agree with everything that she says. And that goes back into the whole comedy thing, with the Kevin Hart thing, and him making a gay joke. Now that all the gays up on him, and he feels like he has to apologize. That apology was not sincere. Right. He did it because it would affect his reputation. Because guess what? If he did not apologize, guess what was happening next? His money was going to start depreciating. Everything in his life was going to go downhill. And that's what happens when you get to that upper echelon in life, right? When you start getting a little bit more money and a little bit more notoriety, it's certain things that you can and cannot say. And that's why I say I appreciate the Cat Williams, the Corey Holcombs, and all of these different types. The Dave Chappelle.
Lavelle Crawford.
Lavelle, that's who it is. Lavelle Crawford. I appreciate them because they have no filters. They don't feel like I have to, I got to withhold this. That defeats the purpose of artistry. Right. If I feel like I got to hold back because you're going to get offended, now I do believe there's a certain thing that you certain ways you can say things, because sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Most
and
definitely.
I also think that it's certain places that you should say things. I'm like, but I don't feel like gays should be exempt from comedy. I don't think black people, white people, dogs, cats, nobody.
Right. You can't tell us you want us to treat you the same, and when we treat you the same, you use it against us.
Because black folks getting talked about, white folks getting talked about. So what makes you feel like you can't get talked about? So that's my whole thing with comedy. I feel like a lot of comedians nowadays aren't really that funny to me. You know what I mean? It's some funny ones, but on the major scale, how, you know, back when the king, I'm very young, I'm 23, but I got an older soul. But back when, you know, like the kings of comedy and all of that was up in Def Jam, and they was really out there getting it, right? It's not the same. It's not the same because it's so monitored now, so people can't be funny. So they could tell the little blanket jokes and say the little small things, but can't nobody really get deep into it no more without there being some type of backlash. So I just feel like comedians of today aren't that funny to me.
That's why I love poetry, because we can say whatever the fuck we want to say.
Period.
You know what I mean? And not just that. To go back to what you said earlier, the debate, I wouldn't say argument, the debate with the young lady online.
Right.
To be, you can't be pro-black and what is it?
Homophobic. Now I don't.
You can't be both, because if you with homophobic, if you with being gay, if you with that cross cancel us reduplicating our race.
Right.
So it's a cross cancel.
Yeah.
So it's impossible to be both. If you're gonna be for our race moving forward, or you're gonna be against our race moving forward, if you completely agree with it.
Right.
Now listen, here's the other tricky thing. They try to play these mind games like you just don't, you know, if somebody's smoking crack, I don't want to be around crackheads, right? If you're sniffing dope, I don't want to be around it. I don't agree with it. Right.
Exactly.
If you're sniffing dope, that's you, but I don't agree with that. So, but the thing is, don't try to manipulate me into agreeing with what you agree with, because I don't agree with it. I should be allowed to have my own thought process, regardless of regardless. I have people that's real close to me that's gay, and guess what? That's your life. That's okay.
Yeah,
I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
But as long as you don't shove it down my throat.
Right.
I don't. Here's the thing. Like, if anything you watching on TV right now, they shoving it down your throat.
Exactly. This is what you need to believe in.
And if you don't believe in, you wouldn't, like you just said earlier, you will not get to the place that you want to get to if you want the system to feed you. It's
pretty much like you gotta play the game.
You gotta act.
You gotta act. You gotta play the game. You gotta act until you get there, and then start raising hell.
Right.
Pretty much. It's for real. You know what I mean? Why do you think, and I know this is a whole nother topic, we're going to make it connect though. Why do you think Oprah Winfrey doesn't really talk about racial issues like that? Why do you think Tyler Perry doesn't really talk about racial issues? Why do you think Jay-Z and Beyonce don't really talk about a lot of racial issues? You know what I mean? It's because although they have their own little way of doing things, these white people have a way of dismantling all of that. Let Jay-Z say the wrong thing. Don't think that Barclays isn't going down some type of way. Don't think that they won't be touched in some type of way. So it's kind of like you really got to play the game, and it's sad. It's sad how we, think. But I feel like, I don't know where I'm going to go in life. I've been told, many a time that I'll go really far, and I believe it. But one thing about me is this, no matter how far I go, I can't not be honest. Now, I will, I do understand that there's a level of respect that I have to have in every, setting. But just being honest.
Yeah. Like, not even honest, being real.
Just being real.
Don't take that away from me.
Yeah.
Don't take me away from me. Don't take my thought process away from me. You can't have it.
Exactly.
I won't give it away.
Once they have your mind, they control everything.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
It says, it's a quote that says something about, something along the lines of wherever the mind is, the body follows, right? So if they have your mind, everything else is going to follow that. You know what I mean? Everything else or whatever. And I feel like you have to develop your mental, so much so that they can't take that from you, that's your one superpower or whatever. And so that's where I'm trying to implement poetry and writing and books and all of these, a business together. I'm trying to marry these so that it's something that's constantly flowing, right? So I'm excited about what I have coming up soon. And soon for me isn't about a year, but it's soon.
Tell us, how long did it take you? First of all, I love your shirt. It's dope.
Thank you. Thank you. This one is old.
When did that idea come to your mind? When did that idea pop? Because this ideas pop in our mind and be like, oh my God, this is lightning in a bottle.
I think hip hop. I love music. I absolutely love music. And I feel like, you know, nowadays music isn't the same anymore. Hip hop specifically isn't the same. You know what I mean? And I feel like once hip hop became political, you know, everything got manipulated. So, you know, you don't have, you know, of course you're going to have, you know, people talking about you know, let's say for example, Uncle Luke, he, you know, talks about what he talks about, right?
I've seen him live before.
Right, but he, you know, and the whole parental advisory thing came in or whatever, and that was a separate set of, you know, thing. This is not where kids go, right? And then you have the Biggie Smalls, who they talk about that kind of stuff, but they, you know, talk about real life. You have the Nas's and the Commons and the Rakim and all these different types of people, right? But when you start affecting the masses like that, of course, they're gonna find a way to get their hand in that, because they said, no, we're not about to enlighten these people. We want to destruct these people. And so I feel like that's what a lot of the music is doing today. And so this is just a reminder that poetry is where it started, right? And being honesty. Poetry is nothing but honesty. It's being able to be honest and go out and put yourself forward, right? And then rap is pretty much poetry with a beat, right? And so I feel like it's a statement saying that, hey, dear rap, poetry is your mother. You need to go back to that. You need to understand that this is where it all originated from: honesty, truth. Just speaking your truth. You know, not saying what they want you to say, not doing what they want you to do, but it's about being honest, and at any cost, you know, whether it costs you your life, whether it costs you whatever. But nowadays, you know, we got so much to lose, so it's kind of hard for many people.
The illusion of so much to lose.
Right. The illusion of so much to lose. You know, it's kind of difficult for many people to feel like, you know what, am I really willing to put my life on the line for this? Am I really willing to put my life on the line?
The money.
But that's how they trap us. It's like a slave mentality too. You know, you think about what money is made out of: cotton and trees, right? It's kind of like, you know, even back during the time of slavery, enslavement. You know, the slave who picked the most cotton was considered the most, I guess, I don't know, dominant of the
king
cotton,
right?
Of the
niggas.
The king of the cotton, right? And so that's what we're ultimately trying to be: king of the cotton, king of the money, or whatever. So, you know, money speaks, right?
Right.
If nothing else speaks, money speaks.